Hello, my name is QJ. Welcome to my channel. This is not a video I'm looking forward to be making, but I feel that it is important enough to point out. Unfortunately, there has been another inconsistent printing issue across Wizards of the Coast multiple printers, and as you can see, without even pointing out the differences, you can already see that there's a significant difference between this and the other two. And even though these two at this distance look like as if they are the same, there is a significant enough difference between these two that I feel that I have to point out and make people aware of it, especially for serious collectors who I feel personally would be pretty upset to be expecting a particular treatment of their card for their collection, only to find that they are actually reasonably different from one another. And I wouldn't want to be a serious collector and having multiple different versions of these cards and not having them being consistent across all the different cards, which I would expect cards of the same treatment to be. Now, first of all, the set is amazing. I love the midnight treatment. I love the fact that they put a special border. Let's put the forest aside, take a closer look at Gisa. Now, not only is the art amazing and just black and white, at the border, can you see it? They put an extra layer of gloss to make the border pop out, so that it feels that as if it's popping out from the card, and it looks amazing, especially in person. I love it. However, what I don't love is the fact that you have 3 different versions of this midnight treatment, and this is not an official different treatment. It is a printing inconsistency between different printers, and it shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have 3 versions of the exact same card that is supposed to be variants of a regular card. Right? I understand if you want to make official variants, but official variants are drastically different from one another. These are just basically inconsistent printing issues from different printers. Now, first of all, the obvious one, there is some amount of gloss to make the border pops out. You can see that it is still, see how the light usually, the bright light usually just takes away any semblance of art, but when I try and brush it through against the border, it doesn't, covers out the border, because there is the treatment of the border, but it is so much faded compared to the other 2 versions. And this particular version, the faded one, which in my personal opinion is what I feel that is the least nicest looking one, is the collector booster version. My collector boosters are printed, the ones that I receive in my local market is printed in the States, and this is American printed collector booster version. One of these is also American printed, but is from Draft Boosters, which is what our pre-release products are from. Now, the top one and the bottom might look similar at a glance and especially at a distance, but there is a significant difference between the glossiness and the way that the border is, the treatment on the border is applied. You see how the bottom one has a much more textured looking border, whereas the top one has a much more glossy looking border. As you can see my fingerprints, on the gloss. It's how glossy it is when my fingerprints doesn't stick onto the bottom version. This is an American set. This American draft booster version, and this is a Japanese set booster version. It's the set boosters in our local market is printed in Japan. So there is English language boosters, but made in Japan. So you can see how there is a difference in the printing, the way that these cards are printed. And these inconsistencies for me for now only seems to be appearing on this treatment of cards, the Midnight Showcase, because of the way that they are printing the border around the card. So the obvious one, collector booster, and then you have the glossy Japanese and the textured looking American printed versions. Now, in case you think that this is just a one-off random thing in Onigir, unfortunately I have old stick fingers here, which you can see without even showing you what it is, right? You can see that the collector booster version is obviously faded, and while one of them, well, you might not feel like there's that much difference between. You can see that how one seems to be a lot more brighter compared to the other, which feels a lot more darker. That's because of the textured and glossy differences between these two. So you can see the Japanese one glossy, and you can see the American one more matte textured look, and obviously the collector booster version, which is somewhat faded. And like I said, these are pretty much on all these midnight treatment cards, and they are especially apparent in basic lands, which are also having the same treatment. So just a quick look between, so the same thing. The Japanese printed one is a lot more glossy, whereas the American printed one has this more textured look. It's either the border treatment or whatever that they put on top of the card, or the card itself. They can see that one is a lot more glossy looking and the other one feels a lot more textured. So forest, just quickly. And obviously there is no foil, there's no non-foil basic lands to compare with from the collector boosters, because in collector booster you can only get foil basic lands. So we're gonna compare the foil ones in very soon, but I'm gonna go through the rest of the basic lands to show you how this is not a one-off thing, and this is it's pretty consistent in its own inconsistency, is what I'll say. And how the last one is the plains. And I might have mentioned this earlier, but if you're a serious collector, I do think that this is something significantly different that you would not want them mixed within your collection, because they do feel very different to me. Especially once you've seen it, it's very hard to unsee the differences. And now we move on to the foil ones. Now, just gonna line them up for you, and you can see now that there is a difference between the first two. Has the border popping out, and that one of them has a more textured looking feel, but because the lines are so much more thinner, it's a lot more harder to notice. But if you see within the curve, there's a lot more, it's a lot more obvious. So one more textured looking is the American printed one, and the Japanese printed one is a lot more glossy looking. And this unfortunately is the collector booster version, which is also a lot more subdued compared to the other versions. So there you have it, a glossy, the textured looking American printed draft booster, the glossy looking Japanese printed set booster, and the American printed collector booster, which is a lot more subdued. Now, basic lands, maybe not so obvious, but this is not acceptable, right? I don't think this is something that we should be accepting of, and that as such a big global company, that I really do think that I really do hope that Wizards of the Coast can do something about the inconsistencies in their printing, and that they can make worldwide all the printers print cards the same way. Like, even if you say it's from different, I guess it's possible that the American collector boosters and the American printed draft boosters are actually printed in different companies, and if they are printed in different companies, they have different ways of printing the cards. That's why we have this inconsistent look to it. I guess that could explain it, but while it explains the reason why it's printed differently, it's not something that I feel that it's, as consumers, we should just blindly accept. I love the set, I love the art, I love the treatment, the design and everything. I really want to love Innistrad Midnight Hunt, but this inconsistent printing, I find it very difficult to love. Well, that's it from me for this video. I hope it has been useful for you, and please like if you find this video helpful. Please subscribe if you'd like to help me out, and please share this with your friends, especially those who are serious collectors who would probably want to know that there are such differences within cards that they might buy. If you buy try and buy a midnight treatment Giza from an online marketplace, you might not end up with the same midnight treatment as your other cards. So you might end up with, if you, for example, you buy a Giza and a stick fingers, and you might end up with two very different versions of midnight treatment. So yes, that's all from me, and thank you very much for your time and for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my other videos. Goodbye.